So I guess they just used up all the offense for the road trip in Montreal. Or at the very least, certainly the Canadian part of it anyway. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Kraken get shut out 3-0 in Ottawa by the Senators, the second time they've been shut out this season, and the second time in 2 years they've been shut out by Forsberg goaltending for the Sens. Now, right off the bat, I'm not going to bother spending too much time on this game because, well, for one thing, and I would spend more time on it otherwise, it is the first half of a back-to-back, with the next game being tomorrow in Boston, and it's actually tomorrow afternoon Seattle time, so it's less than 24 hours between the two games, and let's face it, this game sucked. Besides, the Kraken didn't really bother spending that much time on this game themselves. In fact, through 2 periods, I was heavily considering making this the first no-jersey R&R of the season, something that I do my best to reserve for the truly awful Kraken games. And they had earned that through 2 periods where they just sleptwalked through the first 40 minutes of this game. If you just tuned in late and watched the 3rd period, I think you could convince yourself that the Kraken may even deserve to win this game, as they did control things in the 3rd period pretty well. And sure, obviously they didn't score in the 3rd period since they didn't score at all in this game, so it's not like they would have won the game had they only played the 3rd period, but they did have pressure throughout that entire last 20 minutes. Lots of good chances, and a couple that go off of crossbars, a couple that have good rebounds or deflections out to the other side that just miss a Kraken tap-in. So for the second game in a row, they just could not get a break, catch a bounce, or really have any manner of luck whatsoever, which I'd be fine using as more of a reason of what went wrong in this game if it wasn't for the fact that, again, they just really didn't even bother playing the first 40 minutes of the game. Which, by the way, they were playing against a team that was on the second half of a back-to-back, and you'd think that maybe the Senators then would be the team that would come out of the gates looking a little sleepy, tired, and just generally take a little bit longer to warm up into the game. But no, it was the Kraken who looked like they'd played 3 or 4 games in a row as they started this game. What the heck, with that we might as well just get into this game, where Grubauer does start for the Kraken for the first time in a while, but with it being a back-to-back, even if he is dealing with a little something, which honestly he looked fine in this game, maybe his best game of the season so far, he honestly had a pretty good game by himself. The 2 goals that go in really aren't his fault, and we'll get to that. The 3rd one was an empty netter, so we don't count that, obviously, against him since he was on the bench. But Grubauer's first start, we'll see Decord in Boston, where he had a fantastic game the one other time he played in his hometown, so hopefully that continues as the Kraken go into tomorrow. But the rest of the team doesn't do much to help him throughout the first 2 periods. They do have one good power play midway through the first. Oh, Brandon Montour back as well, by the way, so that's not an excuse that we can use for why the Kraken didn't score, them still missing their 2 best offensive defensemen. They're still missing Vince Dunn, but Montour was back after missing just the 1 game. And obviously, they didn't look much better offensively in this one than the one where they're missing Montour in Toronto. I mean, now it's 2 games in a row where the Kraken have one essential garbage time goal at the end of the game in Toronto. I mean, they very well deserve to have gotten shut out twice in a row at this point offensively, which I'm just saying one more time to get out of the way all of the conversation about what happened in Ottawa's end of the ice for the first 2 periods, since, well, there really wasn't much aside from one good Kraken power play midway through the first. Their first power play of the game looked pretty good, and yeah, maybe that is one that they played well enough to score on. McCann does put one off of the far post. Actually, that might have been on the 2nd period power play, but either way, this first period power play was easily their best of the game. They just couldn't get that little extra to finish it and get it into the net, which would have been nice if they could, because at that point it was already 1-0, coming from an Ottawa goal about 5 minutes into the game. That is a goal for the Senators that, quite frankly, and I'm not trying to make this as an excuse and trying to say that the Kraken should have won this game, because the Sens were the better team and deserved to win the game, but this one is the direct result of just poor officiating. The goal comes off a loose puck finding its way right in front of Grubauer, and he's able to get his glove on it, and just after he has his glove on the puck, Cousins comes through and pokes the puck out of Grubauer's glove. It goes to the far side, where Adam Gaudette is just waiting. The puck goes straight to him. He's got a half-empty net to put it into. He puts it in, and it's immediately waved off by the official as no goal for goaltender interference. Or actually, what he says is the puck was poked out of the goaltender's glove, which you're also not allowed to do, or at least you're not allowed to score after having done that. But after having waved the goal off, saying that it was goaltender interference and that Grubauer had the puck frozen, it goes to review, and look, if they had called this a good goal on the ice, honestly, I wouldn't have bothered arguing about it, because I think it's pretty 50-50, and the replay, there's just so much chaos in front of the net that even the overhead one, there's just not a clear look whatsoever as to whether or not Grubauer did have the puck fully under his glove and controlled on the ice. So That then makes it very frustrating when somehow, someway, the officials come back and say that they had enough incontrovertible evidence to overturn it and call it a good goal on the ice. Again, I'm not going to necessarily say that it shouldn't have been a goal if they had called it one on the ice. I don't think you could have overturned it to say that it was not a goal had they called it one, but there certainly, at least on the replay, was not enough for them to call it back the other way either. So, once again, the only thing consistent about NHL officiating and reviews is that they are inconsistent. Or I guess if you're a Kraken fan, the only thing consistent is if there's a challenge for goaltender interference, it will always go against the Kraken, no matter what. I'm not going to lie, at the point where they overturned this goal, and we're only 5-6 minutes into the first period, I already felt like this was going to be a tough one for the Kraken to come back, as it was just not a game where there was a lot of offensive opportunities at either end of the ice through the first period. Both teams were really locking down their ends of the ice, so, I mean, at the very least for the Kraken, even though things... well, they just didn't bother playing offensively whatsoever for the first 40 minutes, like I've said a few times now. They did at least clean up some of the issues they had in Toronto in the defensive end, and were making it pretty difficult for the Senators to score, and as we just saw, it took the help of the officials to even get the Senators on the board in the first place. Again, just after that, that's where the Kraken get their first power play of the game, the one that was actually a good power play, and honestly is kind of the sum total of their offense for the first two periods of the game. Then they give the Senators a power play right afterwards. The Senators also nearly score on, but Grubauer comes up with a couple of good saves. The Kraken kill it off. We get to the first intermission with the Senators still up 1-0, and I mean, it wasn't a great period for the Kraken, but if they can wake up in the intermission and come out in the second and put in some effort offensively, this game is still very much theirs for the taking. However, they don't whatsoever. The second period is more of the same. There's not really any offense happening at either end of the ice. If anything, the Senators have woken up a little bit more and are really starting to pressure and get some momentum. Again, the Kraken playing well in their defensive end, not giving the Senators much to go off once they get to the offensive end. But at the same time, it's not like there's any pushback the other way from the Kraken, even through two power plays they get through the middle part of the period. And eventually, the Senators get a bounce in the back half of the second to make it 2-0. It's a shot from up by the blue line that gets tipped in front by Tkachuk and then bounces off something in front of the net. I think Grubauer is actually positioned pretty well here to make the save even after the tip by Tkachuk, but it hits something right in front of the net. I don't know if it was a defenseman or maybe another Senator player. The goal was still credited to Tkachuk and not the Senator that is right in front of the net, so I don't know what it hits, but it hits something after Tkachuk deflects it, bounces it off the ice over Grubauer's pad and goes into the net behind him. I mean, there's absolutely nothing he could have done about it. Like I said, I think he played this pretty well, even with a tip on the way to the net, and it's just a bad bounce that gets past him. And then from there, it's kind of more of the same throughout the end of the second period. There's a few more power plays right in the last few minutes. Ottawa gets one with about 4 minutes left, that with 20 seconds or so left in that power play, they trip up McCann, who... I mean, McCann was an absolute workhorse on the penalty kill, really all night, but especially on this power play. He was almost one man killing off the last minute of the Senators' power play, and then, since he gets tripped, he effectively does one man kill off the final 30 seconds of it. So there's 4-on-4, then the Kraken are going to get a power play, but about 5 seconds into that one, they get caught with too many men on the ice, so it goes back to 4-on-4. The Kraken lose their chance to get a power play that they could have desperately needed to try and get a late second period goal and at least come into the third down just one. That doesn't happen, so then the Senators get a little bit more power play after that. So basically the last few minutes of the second period are all just a big mess, which is highlighted by the Kraken being a mess, not only in their inability to bother playing the game anywhere but their end of the ice, but also their inability to count to 5 when they're going on the power play to try to get back into the game. So we go to the third, where finally, and pretty much from right off the get-go in the third, the Kraken look like they've shown up to play. Albeit very late, but at least they are there, creating pressure, getting consistently into the offensive end, transitioning well, getting set up, creating chances, a couple of times overpassing a little bit here and there, but they're getting guys to the net and pretty much doing everything right, other than having that last connection on a pass or the last tip or redirection or just a puck to bounce to them off a rebound. I mean, really anything that would get the puck into the net is pretty much what comes up short for the Kraken in the third period. I mean, again, like I said in the beginning, if you tuned in late and just saw the third period live, you would have felt like the Kraken got a little bit screwed in this game. That, I mean, not screwed by, like, the officials, even though that first one was poorly officiated, but just that they couldn't get a bounce to go their way. They hit a couple of different crossbars and posts in this third period alone, can't get those bounces. they really did play well enough, I think, to earn at least one goal in this third period. It just doesn't come for them. So then if you pair that with just the highlights of how Ottawa scored their 2 goals, the poorly officiated first one, and then the couple of lucky bounces second one, then yeah, you could probably galaxy brain your way into thinking the Kraken deserved to win this game, and shucks, they just got beat by luck and NHL officiating. But yeah, that's not what happened in this one. The Senators were the much better team for the majority of the game. The Kraken didn't show up for most of it, and this is what you get when you don't show up for most of a game, and try to make it all back in the last 20 minutes. And then finally, in the last few minutes of the game, once again, the Kraken pulled Grubauer much earlier than Hackstall ever would have, so it's nice to see that that wasn't just a one-off in the Toronto game, that they are going to be a little bit more aggressive, which is statistically supported as the right thing to do when it comes to pulling the goaltender when at least down multiple goals. I mean, like, at that point, you're not, especially when you haven't scored like they hadn't scored at that point in the game in Toronto or in this one. If you haven't scored, haven't shown that you are going to be able to score 5-on-5, you got to try and make something happen. So pulling the goaltender a little bit early makes even more sense, I think, in that case than if it was a shootout back and forth type of game. Though, obviously, it doesn't end up working out for the Kraken in this one, even to break up the shutout, as the Senators do eventually hit the empty net to make it 3-0 and then finish out the shutout. So, yeah. That one sucked. Maybe their worst game of the season. Certainly their worst 40 minutes of the season. The Blues game is getting far enough into the past where it's a little bit hazy and I'm having a hard time remembering just how poorly they played in that game, and I'm not going to go back and watch it. But while that was still their worst defensive game, this might be their worst offensive performance or just in general effort. And yes, they did also get shut out in Dallas, though there I think that was a lot more to do with just how well Dallas was playing. And I'm not trying to say for any Senators fans that might be watching that the Senators didn't play well in this game. They were very aggressive on the puck, not giving the Kraken any space, allowing the Kraken to get their quick transition game going. So they were doing everything that they needed to try to slow down the Kraken offense. The problem is the Kraken just really didn't show that much of an effort to make their plan happen in the first place or learn from what Ottawa was doing to try and get around it. So yeah, just not trying to take away from how Ottawa played. They did what they needed to, and the Kraken just refused to try to beat them for the majority of the game anyway. Finally then, as for the Kraken 3 stars, as always brought to you by the patrons over on Patreon. If you want to help support a little bit more than you already are by watching to this point, which I very much appreciate, you can help decide these Kraken 3 stars, or once again, like the game in Toronto, if there are 3 stars, by going to the link down below and helping support on Patreon as well. In this one, McCann had some good moments, Montour had some good moments. I liked what I saw mostly from Riker Evans. I think the only player in this game that was worthy of a star would be Philip Grubauer. He lets 2 past him, and I don't think either one was in any way his fault whatsoever. He did the right thing that you're told to do as a goaltender by covering the puck on the first one and just got screwed by indecisive officiating. And then the second one is just a couple of different deflections, which even aside from a lucky bounce on the second one, is already going to make it hard for a goaltender to do anything other than just hope it hits him, and it didn't. So yeah, Grubauer's the only one. Otherwise, let me know what you think down in the comments section, and I'll see you again tomorrow for the game in Boston, or, the R&R after the game in Boston. Hopefully that one goes better for the Kraken. It can't go much worse than these last 2, so fingers crossed. Till then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.